Welcome to Adastra. And it's part 7. So I don't really have too much to say. Apart from let's pick it up where we left off last time. Either way, I'm just glad that this happened. I followed Neferu to the throne room, the cavernous space just as empty as it was during the first trial. Like the first trial, though, a few of the palace regulars are sitting on the benches, Virginia on the left side of the room while Alex sits on the right. The Cassius sat alone, looking tiny compared to the rest of the room, his tail curled neatly under his paws in his lap. He smiles when he sees me, and I make as if to go sit next to him. That's when the jackal grabs my hand. I pause and I see Alex's own inquisitive look before I turn to Neferu. What? Why don't we give Virginia some company? The jackal smiles at me gently, one of his ears flicking in the direction of the she-wolf. Well, you can. I was going to go sit with Alex. Neferu's expression doesn't change, but he doesn't let go either, and his voice takes on a gentle but ominous tone, making me feel a little uncomfortable. Depending on how this trial goes, we may have some business to take care of before it officially ends. It will be best if you are close to me. It's then that I realise what he's getting at. Although I don't know what the process of becoming Neferu's pet is, I imagine it involves some sort of official business like signing something. So I give Alex a little frown and shrug, gesturing at the jackal. The cat continues to look confused as I turn away and follow Neferu to the benches on the other side of the room. Neferu? Virginia sits daintily on the bench, one leg elegantly crossed over the other. She holds up a paw, which the jackal kisses. Good day to you, Virginia. Even though I try to stay behind Neferu, Virginia peers around the jackal's muscular side to stare straight at me. I see that you brought a guest. She holds out her paw again. It takes me a moment to realise that I should kiss it. Well, I did start that trend after all. Indeed, Amicus requested I keep him company during the trial. As I come up from the paw kissing, I see Virginia frowning. My brother shouldn't be burdening you with a silly chore like that. The pet is capable of staying in his room, I imagine. It was a mutual agreement. Besides, he is rather good company once you get to know him. Oh, really? It seems our little Simeon is full of surprises. The she-wolf looks pointedly at me, and I don't have much time to wonder what she's talking about before Neferu is sitting down next to her, pulling me to his side to sit next to him. That would be an accurate observation. There's a momentary pause, for I see Virginia lean forward a bit out of the corner of my eye. When she speaks again, her voice is lowered. So the rumours are true? Then there's another pause, this time from Neferu. I don't believe I'm in a position to speculate on that. It is not my place to involve myself in wolven politics. Virginia laughs softly, one that sounds completely fake. I'm not a fool, Neferu. I may enjoy your suave tactics, but I'd rather you not use them against me. I would not dream of such a thing, Virginia. Surely. Virginia shifts again, and now I know for sure that she's looking directly at me. So, I suppose he understands what we're saying then? Well, he is a sapient and he does possess a lingua. I mean, he understands us. Virginia puts even more emphasis on the word. I see Neferu looking at the floor, still smiling, though his paws seem to clasp each other a bit tighter than usual. You know better than I, being a wolf. Our children's intelligence ourselves, so I'm used to such an idea. Don't feign ignorance, Neferu. You've been around him far more than I have. It's a simple question, one that you should answer honestly. Otherwise, am I to assume you brought a little spy to our conversation? Although the words seem harsh and dangerous, Virginia's tone is light, and Neferu just laughs. You accuse me of deception, yet we both know you've already figured out the answer. Why do you feign ignorance? The wolf fans herself with an air of nonchalance. It's the best weapon in discourse, and it is easy to feign stupidity, at least for me. It is expected on my part. And why would you say something like that? I have a vagina, Neferu. It takes me a moment to absorb what Virginia just said, but Neferu was already chuckling with what's probably the first genuine laugh of the conversation. I see Alex look over at us again, and this time it looks like his eyes are narrowed a bit. It takes the jackal a few seconds to get himself under control again, as Virginia continues to wave her fan, looking rather pleased with herself. Sorry, I'm not used to bluntness here. Oh, it's not impossible for us to be blunt on this moon, the Pharaoh, especially amongst friends. I notice the wolf is looking at me again, and once again I look down. Anyway, it seems we made quite the mistake in overlooking Simia. I may have to do a little research of my own in the archives. Amicus clearly knew something that we did not. Research? I feel my stomach drop. Although Amicus had assured me of things, I don't even know if I really look like a simian. All it might take is a picture to know that I'm not actually from Simia. I try to put that thought in my mind for now as the doors suddenly open and Cato walks in, making his way quickly to the throne. Virginia finally takes her eyes off of me, and I can only hope that she's not going to follow through on her research plans. The throne room is so quiet I hear the old wolf grunt as he makes his way up the stairs before turning to face us. After a few seconds he sits down, his heavy muscular body slouched a bit in his seat, gazing out at us through his visor. A few more moments pass in silence, and just as I'm wondering if the trial is going to begin, I hear a soft mechanical whirring sound as the panel in the ceiling opens up. A dozen camera drones drift down lazily, fanning out in the air to position themselves in various locations throughout the room. One of them floats towards us and hovers just above our heads, the lens seeming to focus on my face. I drop my head again, the action having become second nature since I landed on this moon. The Pharaoh nudges me though. Come now, Amicus brought you here to be seen. His tone is light as always, but I sense he's not saying that just to tease me. We're all playing a role here, and my role is to make Amicus look good, show off to the triumvirates that he went to great lengths to obtain an exotic, fascinating alien pet. I might not like it, that doesn't matter right now, so I lift my head. Instead of the dumb vacant gaze I've been using this past month, I go with a completely straight face. Watch your red light on the top of the drone. When it turns green, know that you're being broadcast. The second trial will begin in 10 seconds. With that, the lights slowly dim and everything goes completely silent. I just sit there looking toward the throne, Cato sitting as motionless as an ancient Roman sculpture. Then the doors open and we all look over, including the cameras. In walk Amicus and Cassius side by side. They must have been waiting out there next to each other, just like Alex and I had been before the second trial. I have to wonder what that must have been like. Without a word, the two of them walk up the broad, carpeted aisle in sync with each other. I stare intently at Amicus as he passes, just in case he looks at me and I can give him an encouraging smile. He looks straight ahead, though, a more serious expression on his face than I've ever seen. Everything stays quiet, the only sound being the muffled shuffling of their padded feet and claws on the carpet. Once they reach the foot of the stairs, they come to a stop before they both bow deeply to Cato. This lasts a few seconds before Cato finally shifts again, breaking the illusion that he was made out of stone. Very good, you may proceed. With that, the two brothers straighten back up before walking up the steps, splitting off to stand either side of the acting emperor. They turn around and face us, both standing at attention, arms straight down at their sides. A drone levitates down from the ceiling, coming to a gentle stop mid-air in front of Cato. I noticed a tiny red light on the top of the drone turn green, and the old wolf fixes his eyes on the camera. Welcome to the trial of rhetoric. Rhetoric has long been a staple of Wolven civilization and one of our greatest assets. While known for our strength and tenacity, so too are we known for our use of words in negotiation. The Pharaoh snorts next to me, loud enough that I wonder if Cato was able to hear it. I hope not. This is why it's not only important that we honour the art and history of debate today, but also prove our ability to use it well. Being a competent rhetorician is essential to being a competent emperor. Remember the rules. You'll have the floor for 20 minutes. Do not reference your challenger. Now, Amicus. I see the slightest of twitches in Amicus's frame as he continues to stare ahead. Yes, Emperor. Please honour Adastra and proceed to the floor. Offer your policies through the art of speech. There's a slight pause and Amicus makes his way down the stairs. If he's nervous, which I know that he is, he's not shown it at all. His movement's calm and reserved. He walks several paces forward, away from the stairs to stand in the middle of the aisle, just slightly ahead of me. He's so close, and I wish I could just say something, get up and give him a hug and tell him that he's going to do great. But I know that time has passed. The moment that everything has been building up to has just arrived. It's a strange feeling, watching something that's going to have such a huge impact on your life, but not being able to participate at all. I can only hope that Amicus is ready. He begins to speak, and when he does, it's not like his usual voice. Instead, it's deeper, broader, or sonorous, I guess. Actually, it's closer to human singing. 20 millennia ago, we were chosen by the Romanus. Out of 1,000 species, they chose us, and was that not for a reason? He's moving his arms and paws a lot too, in broad, sweeping motions. It's not unlike the dance, though he mostly stays in the same spot. 15 millennia ago, we rejected them. We became the first abandoned sibling, and our empire entered a decline of the likes we had never seen before, closing off relations with siblings, losing children, losing resources. A drone floats around his body. I can tell he's playing up the performance to it, dramatically gesturing with overly exaggerated expressions. I realise that it's like I'm watching those dramas I've seen on Adastran television. We fell long and hard, as if our very moon was sucked into the pit. 5,000 years of misery and desolation. 5,000 years until Drusus saved us all. Amicus goes on to describe the history that I had a vague knowledge of. How Drusus re-established contact with the parents, reunited the Wolven Empire and renamed the world Adastra, a name that represented everything the Empire stood for. Since then, we've spread far and wide across the galaxy, found lost children, established road to resources our moon desperately needed. But what we found to be the most valuable? Rekindling diplomatic relations with the other siblings. With them we shared knowledge and wealth, establishing ourselves as true siblings once again. Until the war. While our reasons were sound for initiating the conflict, the sudden and unexpected attack frightened the other siblings, leaving them to abandon us once more. We defended our rights and our dignity from the Chemians. Oh, wow, Tep. Neferu mutters that under his breath, thankfully. But at a great cost. Our empire has suffered for our victory, but there is a way to reverse this. I don't know if the wolf is doing a good job since I have no point of reference, but as far as I can tell he seems to be doing great. No stuttering or stumbling, he's acting pretty good, especially if I'm comparing him to the dramatic actors I've seen on the screens. His movements are powerful but elegant, just like his voice, and I find myself beaming with a sense of pride I never had for someone else before. He goes on to describe the policies he'd already told me about, re-establish relations with the siblings, fully uplift the children, reshape their role in the Empire. And the first step. Amicus suddenly turns to face us, though his gaze is on the Pharaoh. An alliance, one that has been proposed by the Chemians. This may seem like a worrying prospect to you. It has never been done in the history of the Galaxius, but I can promise that while Emperor, I will demand respect and equal treatment from the Chemians. Their arrogance will be tamed, and Wolven dignity will be restored. The light on the camera drawn in front of us is green, broadcasting our image to the entirety of Adastra. I'm at least glad that the Pharaoh is able to control his eye rolling right now. Within the course of my rule, I will place Adastra on the same pedestal as all the other siblings, if not higher. No longer will we be the half-sibling of the Galaxius. No, we will once again stretch beyond our system, beyond our quadrant, and yes, eventually beyond the galaxy. Amicus points to the ceiling. As Drusus proclaimed 10 millennia ago, to the stars. So I say now, to the stars and beyond. Amicus pauses dramatically in that pose, then bows before turning and walking back to the throne. Thank you, Amicus. Cassius? I let out a breath, watching as Amicus makes his way up the steps, passing Cassius as his brother makes his way to the same spot on the floor. So that's it. Amicus's part is done. Now it's Cassius's turn, and I watch as he walks to the same spot, an angry scowl on his face. It's angrier than usual, almost furious. I wonder if he's upset about how well Amicus had done. Then he starts speaking, and I realise it's part of his show. For 300 years, our empire has been in shambles. I jump, and even feel Neferu tense up next to me as the White Wolf practically screams. Not because of the war, but not because we chose a different path. No, this is because of Drusus and his flawed vision of the galaxies as a whole. My brother was right about one thing. Adastra is the lowest of the low amongst the siblings, the laughing stock of the entire galaxy. No references to Amicus, Cassius. Cato barks from across the throne room, but the wolf ignores him, swiping his paw through the air, his movements aggressive and violent. Enough of being the butt of jokes, of being spat upon, of being considered at the level of mere children. It is time for Adastra to once again be respected, revered, and feared just like before Drusus. Cassius' speech goes on like that, describing Adastra in terms that make it sound like the worst place in the galaxy to be. I don't know if this is good or not. He's definitely been way more intense than Amicus was. If that's the goal, then I'm worried. I glance over at Neferu and Virginia, and the troubled looks on their faces tell me they should be even more worried. I look up toward the throne, but Amicus is as still and straight-faced as ever. I feel myself start to sweat, wondering if this is the beginning of the end. My brother stated that the war was responsible for our sudden decline, a decline not so sudden when it's been happening for thousands of years. No, that war was the best thing that could ever have happened to this empire. It showed that we were unafraid and intimidated by the most powerful force in the galaxy. We were mocked and laughed at openly before the war. Now these laughs are quieter behind dainty paws as our siblings realise just how dangerous we can be. They take us seriously now. Cassius turns his angry gaze on us. But not seriously enough. Look who they sent to propose this alliance that my brother spoke of. No references to Amicus, Cassius. But Cato is quieter now, as if he knows he can't stop the young wolf. Our camera light turns green, and once again I get the feeling that the broadcast is displaying Neferu. The one and only flower of Chemia, the Pharaoh's faggot son with his oils and perfumes, stinking up the halls of our palace. I glance up at Neferu, but his expression has hardly changed, though I see a hint of a smirk on his lips. Meanwhile, Virginia is hiding a look of shock, or horror, or both, behind a fan. This alliance is highly suspect, and I must wonder what is really going on during these negotiations. Actually, let me give you an idea. Cassius makes a sort of signal with his paw, then pauses. Everything is silent for a moment, and looking at the cameras, none of them are green. I look around at the others, and I can tell that they're confused as well. What are you broadcasting, Cassius? Cassius doesn't even turn around to acknowledge Cato. Just showing a small video clip. Of what? I see Amicus bristling next to Cato, and I feel the hair standing up on my own neck. The traitorous act between my brother and the flower jackal. What? Amicus is so puffed out he looks almost twice his natural size. What are you doing? Yes, Cassius, what are you doing? Cato, he bugged my room. Amicus starts to move, but Cato reaches out from his throne to hold him back. Stay there, brother, it's almost over, and don't worry, it's censored. Cassius sneers back at Amicus before the red light on his drone suddenly turns green again. Cassius stares at the lens for a moment, letting the silence drag out for dramatic effect. Shocking, is it not? I already described the flower of Chemia. Do we also want the flower of Adastra to be our emperor? Time, Cassius. Cato's voice is soft, sounding almost astonished. Amicus is clearly having a much harder time keeping his emotions in check now. Even from this distance I can see him working his jaw. But Cassius doesn't seem to be finished. And let me leave you with this. Time, Cassius. Yield the floor. No, I will not yield. Adastra is the one out of time. This empire is stretched thin, and that tail raiser proposes we stretch even further. When do we break? Cassius whirls around and points a finger at Amicus. He looks towards the children and the siblings while completely ignoring us. Cassius's bristled fur slowly starts to lay down again, the wolf making a show trying to get himself under control again. So, let me leave you with this. While campaigning in the outskirts of Adastra city, areas my brother completely neglected, I came across a young child with the same disease that afflicts me. Cassius's voice becomes much more quiet, gentle, lowering his muzzle a bit to stare at the floor. Unlike me, she had no medication to speak of because her poor farming family could not afford it. She was bound to a wheelchair, her bones so frail that something as simple as a bath causes them to dislocate and break. Cassius's voice catches, and my surprise I see a tear slide down his cheek. How dare this empire let our people fall in such a state that we cannot even care for our own people? I am hearing that even now we can't afford to vaccinate those beyond our glittering city. Cassius looks back up at the camera. It may seem as we cannot hear you past the walls of this palace, but I hear you. I promise to always hear you. I will not cater to the needs and wants of the siblings or children, to the Adastra city elites or officials. Cassius sweeps a paw dramatically to his chest. Not to the stars, but to you, the people of the Empire. Thank you. Cassius bows low to the camera before turning to walk back to the throne. There's a long moment of silence as we all just stare at the white wolf. Then Com's voice crackles over our heads. Triumvirates, make your decisions. Suddenly I feel something grasp me around the wrist and look down, seeing the pharaoh's furry black paw holding on to me. Tibor, very quietly we're going to get up and head to my room. We'll move around the back so the cameras do not see. Why? Because what Amicus has feared is about to... The triumvirates have made their decisions. I see the pharaoh's eyes widen in surprise. Already? He seems to say it to himself, but he stands and I have to stand with him as he starts to walk up the aisle toward the back of the room, pulling me along with him. I look back at Amicus and see the wolf looking right back at me, finally. His eyes are full of worry and regret, and I can tell everyone knows that Cassius has won. My stomach drops, and I realise that what I've been terrified of happening all month is actually happening. We've lost. I can only stare at the pharaoh's muscular arms that pulls me toward the doors, toward an unknown and unwanted future. Lupus, after all this time, after everything we've done, we've lost. Amicus. The pharaoh pauses. I look up at the ceiling toward where I always imagined Com to be if he were real, and look back at the throne. Adroti, Amicus. Amicus looks just as shocked as I am. Cassius, meanwhile, has his jaw set grimly. As always, I can't read Cato. Lux, Amicus. Gebii, Amicus. What the hell is going on? It just seemed like everyone thought Cassius was going to win, and if it was all based on performance, then he should be winning. Tricelli, Amicus. There's a pause, one that has me realise that we just won? Did we really just win? Adastra? Cato is staring straight ahead with his visor. Now I can see his paws gripping into the armrests of his throne. The silence goes on so long that Com asks again. Adastra? Cato lets the silence continue for several more seconds before finally opening his muzzle. Cassius! I don't know what to think, but Com immediately responds. The trial has been decided. Amicus is the victor. The silence that follows this time is deafening. No one cheers, no one moves. Even Virginia's fan is frozen as we're all stuck in a picture. All the while the cameras continue to hover over our heads, each one of them flashing green for a moment. Finally, Com is again the one to break the silence. This concludes the second trial. Thank you. With that, the camera lights turn off completely and the drones hover up towards the compartment and the ceiling. The lights come back on. As they do, the pharaoh is once again pulling me toward the doors. I want to hold back and watch, but the jackal is insistent. Next thing I know, the doors are quietly sliding open. We walk into the equally silent, though much less tense atmosphere of the marble halls. Where are we going? We just won. As I say that, I feel the excitement finally replace the shock. We won! The pharaoh, we won. Clearly, but that's not mean you're safe yet. What? The pharaoh is quiet for a moment. At this point the jackal having let go of my hand, allowing me to just follow behind him. What even happened? Who do you think should have won, Tibor? I frown. Does that matter? The triumvirates decided. Amicus won. True, but not just the triumvirates were watching. We all know who should have won. I feel myself getting defensive. Well, Cassius was being a total asshole. Besides, he cheated. He went over his allowed time and referenced Amicus and his points. The pharaoh laughs mirthlessly. The rules do not matter. I'm sure you probably realise that by now Cassius did exactly as he should have, but he lost because of you. What? The triumvirates clearly made their decisions long before the trial. We were hoping they would not go against the will of the people, but Cassius's performance forced them to. You're talking about the rumour about Cassius getting rid of them? That would be the one. I thought that such a clearly lopsided win on Cassius' part would have deterred at least most of them. Their hunger for power is insatiable, it seems. Again, I feel myself getting defensive. There's also a sense of worry creeping in. Well, I don't know. I think Amicus did great. Besides, it's their role to keep the Emperor's power in check anyway, isn't it? Yes, but that's not the point of the trials, and the people know that. Adastra will not be happy about this. Well, what does that mean then? We come to a stop in front of Amicus's room, and finally the jackal turns to face me. That I cannot tell you. I am not an expert on the politics of Adastra. I am simply a student here. Amicus may have won this battle, but I can guarantee that the power struggle is far from over. Amicus can explain more to you when he arrives. For now, wait here for him in his room. The jackal starts to turn to leave, but seems to notice the confused and probably worried look on my face. He pauses, then sets a paw on my shoulder. Do not fret too much over this. It's part of the course in Wolven politics, that much I do know. Drama is their identity, and we can only be along for the ride. The pharaoh smiles at me. Amicus will keep you safe, and if there's a need you have that he cannot fulfill, I am also here. I know the pharaoh intends that to sound salacious, but I also think he means it in a nice way. I put my hand on his paw. Thanks. The jackal nods at me before turning away to walk up the hall, probably toward his own room. Once he's out of sight, I press my hand to the panel, walk into Amicus's room, sitting on the sofa to wait. Strange. Amicus won, but doesn't actually feel that way after what the pharaoh just told me. Amicus didn't generally win. We won because of a rumour basically making the entire trial thing pointless. Still, I can't exactly feel bad about that. Cassius bugged this very room to show footage of Amicus fucking the pharaoh. I closed my eyes, rubbing them with our hands. I realised how much that might have damaged Amicus's reputation. Not only do the people realise this trial was decided from the beginning by corrupt triumvirates, but also their soon-to-be emperor had sex with a male. A Chemian male at that. But again, Cassius losing because of his intention to get rid of one of the few checks on his powers seems like karma to me. Weren't they keeping the emperor's power in check by making the decision that they did? Technically, Amicus will become emperor now, though I guess it won't be official until Cassius actually concedes the third trial. I turn these thoughts over and over in my head for the next 20 minutes, a bit annoyed by the fact that even though I got exactly what I wanted, several issues had come with it. Suddenly the door slides open, and I forget my worry for just a moment as I see Amicus standing there. He only gets a few steps into the room, for I'm already there, wrapping my arms around his body as I hug him. Whoa, hey, Tibor, everything alright? The wolf sets a heavy paw on my head, rubbing the pads gently against my scalp. Are you? Well, of course. Amicus smiles down at me warmly, but having known him this long, I know that's not exactly true. Well, we won. We did. He's quiet for a bit, continuing to rub my head. This isn't really how I imagined it would go. Amicus laughs softly. Oh, neither did I. But we did win, and that's the important part. Amicus hugs me tightly again. Is what Cassius did, what he showed, how bad was that? Amicus grimaces. Bad, but I'll find a way to get through that. Well, since my first job as emperor will be rebuilding my image. When do you become emperor? Well, as soon as Cassius gives up. I don't think he's in the mood to do that quite yet, though. We stand there for a while. Amicus continued to stroke my head as I lean it against his chest, listening to the soft beat of his heart. I'm just glad it's over. Well, I feel the same. So, what next? Well, for now I must go to the city. The triumvirates requested the imperial family be seen at once. Oh, why? Well, everyone assumes the trial's to be over. They'd like to discuss things with the family before they leave Adastra for their own cities. I see. They also requested that you go. I leaned back to look up at the wolf. Really? Yes, though I told them not to expect it. I know you wanted to see the city, but it's up to you. Well, it won't be the actual city, just the district where the delegates live. Things are a bit chaotic in the city centre at the moment. Chaotic? The citizens are excited after the trial. Ah, I imagine excited means angry. I could, but doing official stuff seems kind of scary. You wouldn't have to do anything, just look happy to be there, but it's up to you. Would it help you? Possibly. I'd certainly be happy to have you there. Then sure. The wolf's eyebrows go up in surprise. Oh, really? Well, alright then, let's go. Now? Yes, I believe the others are already in the chariot. Are you ready? I think so, unless I need to bring anything. Oh, not at all. Sorry, I know things are moving fast at the moment. It's to be expected after the trial, but we can talk in private when we get back, alright? Okay. Amicus is already turning to pull me along, but I stop him. When he turns, I do what I wanted to do since right before the trial started, and I kiss him on the lips. The chariot is really just a large metallic carriage. It has benches inside with an open top. There are no horses, of course. It seems to move on its own. It's the first time I've ever seen wheels being used for transportation here, though. As we're walking up to it, I notice Virginia and Neferu already sitting in the front. And Cassius is in the back with Alex. He's very deliberately looking away from us. I whisper to Amicus as we get close to the chariot. Cassius is going? Yes, I think Cato made him go. Despite everything the White Wolf has done, especially in the trial, I can't help but feel a little sorry for him. I can't imagine having to go out in public right after a years-long campaign was defeated. Amicus hops in first, sitting next to Virginia before reaching down to me to pull me up next to him. I thought we'd be flying there. We usually do, but since the ship we used to take to the city crashed a few months ago, we decided the chariot is safer and more inconspicuous. Yes, something like that will come in handy considering the state of the city right now. Yes. What's the state of the city? Virginia fixes her eyes on me, really looking at me for the first time in a while. Riots, looting, the usual, though a bit unusual for Adastra City compared to, say, Lux. Amicus glances at me, but that's when there's a sudden jerk as the chariot moves forward toward the tree line. Virginia looks at Amicus. I must say your pet is much more fascinating than I originally thought. He could barely speak when I first met him. Yes, he was shy. I guess I should have told Amicus my act had been exposed at this point. Well, we must reconnect with this Simia then. They seem oddly intelligent. Yes. Oh, thank the gods for the trees. Peter is much too harsh today. Amicus clearly tries to change the subject as the road turns into the thick forest. We're blanketed in an eerie green glow as the forest envelops us. Strange glowing insects fly around our carriage, and notice how ancient the trees look, gnarled and rough, almost completely blocking out the sky. Hopefully they allow us to freshen up a bit before the ceremony. I'll be a mess by the time we reach the city. Virginia whips out her large embroidered fan again, waving it frantically in her face. I kind of wish I had one too, my skin almost immediately sticky in the humid air. You'll look fine, besides we'll all be in the same state. Amicus glances over at the jackal. I have to wonder what brought you along, Neferu. Oh, my presence was requested. Well, by whom? Oh, for the sake of Vita, don't start, Amicus. What? Oh, I'm simply curious. No, we're trying to start a fight, which is the last thing we need in front of the triumvirates. Besides, isn't your policy to befriend Chemians? An alliance isn't a friendship. A Chemians see it as a friendship. Besides, what everyone probably thinks you're already very close after what was broadcast. Virginia! She hides her smirk behind the fan as Neferu grins beside her. I'm simply reminding you they might still be fresh in everyone's mind when we get there. Amicus slumps in his seat, legs stretched out in front of him. All the more reason seem distant. That will probably affect my reputation for years. Oh, don't be so dramatic. The people love such scandals. They simply pretend to be outraged. Amicus snorts but doesn't say anything more, signalling that the conversation is over. I wonder if Cassius, sitting right behind us, is listening in. Probably. I find the whole thing strange. The wolves had tried to sabotage Amicus by leaking what was basically a porno sitting right behind us. I turn my head ever so slightly, trying to look back at Cassius to see if he's looking at us. I don't see anything, so I turn around more fully and find that the white wolf is laying down, his eyes closed with his head in Alex's lap. Alex looks up at me and smiles with a wave. I wave back awkwardly before quickly turning around. Virginia and the Pharaoh seem to be caught up in their own conversation at the moment, while Amicus continues to sulk, staring at his feet. So, what exactly is going to happen when we get there? Oh, well, the meeting with the triumvirates, as I said earlier. After that, we'll likely get to walk the streets of the district to visit the shops and a restaurant. So I'll just stand next to you? Oh, yes. Oh, all right. For the rest of the ride, I lean against Amicus's side, and after several minutes I start to nod off. Amicus notices and wraps an arm around me, and I'm able to comfortably lean against his chest to fall asleep. The next thing I know, I'm being nudged awake by Amicus. I find myself staring at several buildings, the sudden change in scenery leaving me dazed. I'm still trying to get my bearings as Amicus hops out of the carriage, reaching up to lift me down. When I look back up, I'm able to see a large group of wolves off to the side, watching us intently. Immediately I feel self-conscious, the crowd being the largest gathering of wolves that I've seen in person. They come in all shapes and sizes, and I'm surprised to see a few of them are almost as short as I am. One characteristic that all of them share, though, is their thick-bodied stature. Amicus guides me around, standing in front of the chariot with Neferu, Virginia, Cassius and Alex, holding me close to his side. One of the old wolves steps forward from the group. "Welcome, Imperial family. Oh, thank you so much for coming on this day of the second trial. It was a marvellous show." That seems like a bold thing to say after a clip of Neferu and Amicus having sex was shown. There doesn't seem any awkwardness, no, the old wolves looking eager to talk to Amicus. Cicero, first triumvirate of Adroti." The old wolf walks forward towards Amicus, setting his paws on the bigger wolf's shoulders and touching the sides of their muzzles together. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice Cassius shooting us a sour, angry look. The wolf and Amicus hold a short conversation, the older wolf asking Amicus what he thought of Adroti, what problems the city is currently having, and how they might proceed in the future. After that, he then moves on to Virginia, where the conversation is much shorter. Another wolf from the group moves forward to talk to Amicus, the conversation following a roughly similar pattern. There's no talk about Amicus becoming emperor, but the assumption is there, and when each of them gets to Cassius, it's almost as equally brief as it was with Virginia. Despite the novelty of this situation, I quickly become bored, and the conversations blend together very quickly, as over a dozen of these old wolves come forward to introduce themselves to Amicus. For his part, Amicus does a really good job of seeming enthusiastic for each introduction, mentions he already knows who they are, and he thinks very, very highly of their city and region. Occasionally they'll glance at me and comment on how strange I look, that's usually with a positive tone, congratulating Amicus on snagging me. That does seem to make Amicus uncomfortable, but I keep a straight face and bow each time, seeming to delight the old wolves with my etiquette. Eventually these introductions end, but as we start to move toward the shops, the triumvirates continue to follow us, and I find myself having a harder time keeping up with Amicus. He's practically surrounded by the triumvirates. I give up trying to stay next to him, and even though he keeps glancing at me and calls to me a few times, I just wave him on, choosing instead to walk alongside Neferu and Virginia. Sure, it's annoying, but he's about to become emperor, so it makes sense that he's so popular. As we walk through the streets, wolves call out to Amicus from doorways and windows, and he tries to wave at all of them. Further up the road, a group of children, puppies, show up with flowers in their paws, handing them out to Amicus and the triumvirates. As I watch this happening, I notice a particularly patchy-looking child, no taller than my waist, standing off to the side awkwardly, looking right at me as she holds a flower in her paws. I pause, unsure if she means to give it to me. When I do, she moves closer. So I bend over, reaching out, and her eyes widen, probably simultaneously horrified and fascinated at getting the crazy alien's attention. Nevertheless, she comes closer and shyly pushes the crumpled, wilted flower into my hands before suddenly leaning in and touching the side of her face to mine. For a moment I see her watery, bloodshot eyes. Then I feel the slightly damp fur brush my skin before she makes an odd yelping sound and runs off down the street. I stare after her, wondering if I'd done something wrong. "Found yourself a gift?" I look down at the white flower, noticing that several petals are missing. I guess. That one didn't look healthy, did she? Not really. Maybe Cassius had a point with his speech. I think they both made good points, honestly. The pharaoh gestures at the gaggle of wolves moving further and further away from us. Better catch up before they leave us behind. Yeah. I look down at the flower one last time before dropping it to the road, feeling a little guilty as I do. Even though the ceremony is technically over, the triumvirates don't seem to want to leave Amicus alone. I'm kind of amazed at how well Amicus is dealing with them, considering how irritated I'm feeling. Amicus tries to bring me over to his side a few times, pointing out trinkets and souvenirs that he tries to explain, as if wanting to show me a bit of Adastran culture. It's nice, and I can tell he wants to involve me, but it's far too busy with triumvirates and locals breaking in every 5 seconds to ask or tell Amicus something. Wish you could just tell him to go away. I know it doesn't work like that. On top of this, my joints are really starting to ache from all the walking. I wonder if living in the palace for so long has made me soft. Eventually I just trail the group of wolves, browsing the goods after they do. It's interesting, sure, but everything's so similar to what we have on Earth. Necklaces, earrings, brushes, clothes, nothing all that mind-blowing. Eventually, Amicus very loudly calls out he'd like to go to a restaurant with his pet, if everyone could please allow him through. I take this as my cue to move to his side, and he immediately puts an arm around mine, holding me close. So we walk up the street. Many wolves still following behind us. Amicus puts his muzzle close to my ear, sending a bit of a chill over my neck. Wasn't it oddly painful? Well, everything okay, Tibor? You seem a bit uncomfortable. I shrug. Well, everything around you is new to me, so I guess I do feel a little bit off. Well, let's settle down in a restaurant. We can cool off and catch our breath there. The wolf gives me a quick squeeze with his arm, and despite my slightly sour mood, I can't help but smile a bit. I mean, it is kind of cool that my friend is so popular, even if it's because he's going to be the next emperor. We walk into a small but cosy restaurant, and I can tell right away it's rather upscale with its carved pillars and the fancy tapestries on the wall. Then again, everything in this district is kind of upscale, I guess. The triumvirates follow us right into the restaurant though, and I let out a frustrated sigh. Amicus notices right away and signals that a wolf stand behind a podium. This particular wolf is staring at us wide-eyed, apparently gobsmacked at seeing the soon-to-be emperor show up in his restaurant. He practically trips over himself to get to us, banging his hip on the side of a table as he does. Yes, your Majesty? Amicus grimaces. Oh, just Amicus, please. Could you get us a secluded table, preferably with no one seated next to us? Of course. The wolf stumbles over himself again before leading us to a corner of the restaurant, gesturing to the table there. He then turns to a couple next to the table and begins frantically to hiss at them to move. They stare at him in astonishment until Amicus steps in to stop him. Oh, fine. Just don't let any of that group over there sit next to us, if that's all right. Amicus jerks his head over the gaggle of old wolves, all of them staring at us rather hawkishly. Oh, yes, of course. He hurries off towards said group, and we're finally able to sit down, or lay down. The seats are, of course, in the Roman style. Amicus settles down with a huge sigh, stretching his big body over the bed. Oh, sorry about that. I should have warned you about how frustrating it can be with all the pointless chatter. I shrug. Well, seems about right for politics. Oh, it is, but don't worry, it's rare all the triumvirates are in the city all at once. This is for the trials, of course. Yeah, makes sense. Are you sure you're okay? I can never seem to tell. I'm fine. I rub my arms. The skin's sensitive and sore, just like my joints. I wonder if I'm getting sunburned too. All right, so what do you think of the city? Well, this part of it, at least. Well, I wish I could take you to where the skyscrapers are, but as I said, things are a bit chaotic at the moment. It's pretty cool. It wouldn't be exactly out of place on Earth. Definitely different, but really similar. Ah, well, you were uplifted by us after all. Yeah. So is this what you can do as an emperor? Come to the city and just talk? Amicus chuckles. Oh, there will be much more to it, I'm sure. I'm hoping Cato will teach me a bit, if he's able to get over the trial. I remember that Cato did vote for Cassius. He's probably furious about it right now. Won't you have, advisors and stuff? Well, yes, but I must choose them. Would you choose Cato? Oh, I could. Will you? Well, maybe. But recent events have left me a bit unsure of that. Why is that? Amicus shakes his head. Oh, don't worry about it now. We should be celebrating. I mean, you could become emperor at every moment. Shouldn't you have someone who's got a good head on their shoulders at the ready? Huh, I suppose. Who would you suggest? I get the feeling he's goading me to offer myself. That definitely wouldn't be the case. There are a few wolves I know makes the decision pretty easy. Virginia. Amicus raises his eyebrows in slight surprise. Oh, well, yes, I would definitely consider her. The only problem is the image of a female telling me what to do. The tail-raiser reputation is bad enough. I roll my eyes. Maybe wolven masculinity is something you can fix while you're emperor? Amicus doesn't seem to know how to answer that, but he doesn't have to as our food arrives. I'm a bit surprised since we didn't order, but looking around it seems that everyone gets the same thing. There's the usual olives, grapes, cheese and bread, but also seafood and even eggs, which surprises me. Amicus thanks the nervous waiter for immediately starting to dig in. I do the same, but while I'm spreading cheese onto the bread, my mind wanders back to what might be happening in the city right now. So, how bad are things in the city? No one seems that concerned about it. Well, from what I've been told, it's fairly mild. Riots are common in Adastra, but they don't last long. I think the people will calm down within the next few days. Oh, okay. So they don't dislike you or anything? It takes Amicus a moment to swallow down his mouthful of bread before speaking. No, most of the anger is directed at the triumvirates. I will say, though, I have my work cut out in rebuilding my reputation. Because of the sex video? Yes. Amicus tries to smile off light-heartedly, but I can see his ears turning red. It must be weird being out in public like this, knowing that everyone saw it. I was told by one of the triumvirates from Lux to simply say it was fake. Not sure if that will work. Could be a good idea. Really, the biggest issue is that delegitimizes the alliance process with the Chemians. The people will believe that I'm beholden to Neferu somehow. Amicus' expression finally falls a bit, staring down at the food as his munching slows down. I'm sure they'll get over it. From what I've been told, it seems like they're quick to forget. Well, yes, as soon as the next scandal comes along, hopefully one not involving me. Yeah. We eat in silence for a while, and I can tell something heavy is on Amicus' mind. In the meantime, I'm a bit distracted with itching in specific spots on my arms, feeling tiny little bumps on the skin. What if I'm allergic to something in the meal, so I stop eating for the moment, choose instead to lounge out on the bed. Tibor, I've been meaning to ask you something. Yeah? Do you want to stay here even after I become emperor? The question catches me by surprise. I'm left to try and gather my thoughts for a moment as Amicus continues to look down. What do you mean? Amicus sighs and glances at me. I mean, do you want to stay here with me, even if you have the ability to go home? Amicus quickly looks down again. I'm sorry, I know it's not my place to ask, but I thought I might as well ask. I stare at him for a moment, then I look down too. You know I need to go back. At the very least, I need to let my friends and family know that I'm okay. I know they're looking for me in Italy right now, probably all of Europe at this point. I need to let them know. Amicus coughs hastily. Of course. But that doesn't mean I don't want to come back. I do. I just know that there are problems. I lower my voice as I remember that we're in a public place, that mentioning illegal first contact would not be a good idea. If we can fix the problems, honestly, I'd love to come back and stay for a long time. I kind of surprised myself with that statement, but it's true. Amicus glances at me in surprise. Really? Yeah, if it wasn't a risk to your empire. Well, of course, I mean to speak to the parents as soon as I'm able. I'm certain we can figure something out. Look on Amicus' face right now. So sad but a little hopeful. Reminds me of something I've been wanting to do for the past week. And Amicus? Oh, yeah? I glance around quickly, making sure the nearby patrons aren't listening. Do you want to date me? The statement, so ridiculous, so silly in this situation, comes out all quiet and weak, but I don't know how else to ask it. That word is so complicated between us now with how I try to explain it to Amicus. It's something I don't think I've ever said to anyone before, and just like Amicus, I found myself looking down immediately. It's quiet for a moment and the restaurant suddenly lights up with a golden hue as the sunset hits the windows just right. I hear a long exhalation and realise that the wolf had been holding his breath. I look up then and see Amicus smiling at me. There's a mixture of happiness and relief on his face, maybe even a little amusement. I guess we've been dancing around it for so long, we both knew by now it's what we wanted, what we've been building up to. Well, of course, Tibor. I'm honoured that you'd have me. I even see his eyes glistening a bit. I want to get up right there and then and join him on his bed, but public setting holds me back. I imagine Amicus is feeling the same way, and I wonder if maybe asking here in public wasn't the best place for it. But it was done, and I feel myself grinning despite myself. The wolf grins right back. Well, like you said, while I'm here we might as well get to know each other better, and if you do figure something out, I can come back. Amicus nods and turns his head in a way he's able to wipe an eye on his shoulder, probably hoping I wouldn't notice. He looks so relieved. I realise even after we made up in the meditation room, he's probably still feeling unsure of where we stood romantically. But there are boundaries, and if I'm dating you, you have to tell me everything. And no sleeping around behind my back. Well, of course, I promise to tell you everything, especially everything that concerns you, and I don't ever intend on breaking that promise to you. And sleeping around? Amicus's ears flick and he glances over our neighbours, who are definitely trying to eavesdrop. He lowers his voice a good deal. Oh, definitely not. Not that I have anyone to be with. Well, we can discuss all this when we get back to our room, and... Amicus lowers his voice even more. Maybe do a little more as well? His ears flatten as I roll my eyes, but they come back up as I smile. Sure. Immediately his tail starts thumping the bed. An eager look on his face has me shaking my head. I can't deny that I'm excited too. Actually, I'm feeling kind of nervous now that I just promised him that. How would we even start? We sit together for a while longer, the conversation moving to more casual topics, like how the districts of the city are divided up. Though as an hour passes, I start to feel hot and a little dizzy. When I mention this to Amicus, he suggests we head back to the palace. Vita is completely set by the time we're heading out toward the carriage. Of course, several delegates surround us as we start to head off, but Amicus promises it'll only be 10 minutes. I head out into the street alone, stand next to the chariot. It's a bit nicer out here in the open air compared to the stuffy restaurant. I can tell now that I'm definitely getting sick. All of that soreness and exhaustion was just the beginnings of a creeping fever I can feel breaking out again across my skin. I end up sitting on the carriage step, head bowed as I feel myself starting to sweat. It's anything I haven't felt before. There's an odd prickling sensation underneath it all, like pins and needles just under my skin, leaving me wanting to itch at various places on my body. I just wish Amicus would hurry up. The others too, since I'm the only one standing here. I can't even remember when the Pharaoh and Virginia went. Someplace shopping, I think. Simeon! Cassius' voice is low and quiet to my left. I glance over to see him leaning up casually against the chariot. I make a half-hearted attempt at bowing to him, so just flopping my head in his direction. The wolf glares before walking toward me. What game are you playing? Now is probably the worst time for this to happen. Game? I mumble out stupidly, looking toward the restaurant to see if I can see Amicus through the crowd gathered in front. Do not act stupid. I know you're capable of understanding. I just shake my head, immediately regret it as I feel all the food I'd just eaten roil around in my stomach. I'm really sick, way more than I'd realise. I can't believe how hard and fast it's hitting me. Do you remember several weeks ago when you served me during midday meal? Virginia and the Pharaoh were there. I just stick to silence now, worried that moving at all is going to make me hurl. Of course you remember. You told us around for us about what I intended to do with them, didn't you? Cassius moves closer. The feelings coursing through my body leaves me not caring all that much about him right now. I need to get to Amicus. I need to tell him that something's wrong. I hug myself, feeling that prickling sensation erupt to the surface, my skin on my arms and chest and legs burning and itching in the most horrible way. I gasp. What is that? Some sort of simian language? Listen to me. I want to know what you told them and how you knew to tell them. I feel bumps on my arms, bumps that weren't there just minutes ago. I look down and even though it's hard to see in the darkness, I'm at least able to see the skin is splotchy and discoloured. Shakily I touch one of the splotches and watch as the tear of clear liquid oozes out. What the hell? Something grabs the front of my robes and pulls me up. Are you listening, pet? I said. I was worried about small movements. That huge lurch pushes my stomach over the edge, and immediately projectile vomit straight into the middle of Cassius's torso. We both stare at the mess on his fur, which is starting to drip down heavily onto his garments. Oh, gods! Oh, gods! The wolf screeches, and at the same time I vomit again, right in the same spot. Cassius immediately stumbles back, screeching as he waves his paws uselessly at the mess, and actually starts to retch himself. I'm not able to see if he's actually throwing up too. Instead, I crumple, sit on the ground, feeling the world spin around me. Thankfully, the next thing I hear is Amicus's voice. It sounds like it's coming from far away, even though I can tell he's crouching right next to me.
What did you do to him, Cassius?
I did nothing. I hear splattering noises.
Tibor, what happened? What's wrong?
I sway and Amicus lets me lean into him despite my vomit-covered robes. I don't know.
Was it the food?
I stick out an arm and feel the wolf catch it delicately, examining it.
Gods,
he mumbles it under his breath. What happened, Cassius? I hear more footsteps, and for some reason I feel myself becoming embarrassed that everyone's seen me like this. That barbarian, he vomited on me. Sounds like Cassius is about to cry. For some reason that's pretty funny to me right now. I try to laugh, but my throat is so sore.
Virginia, he's sick.
We need to get him back to the palace. Get in the carriage.
Well, it's too slow.
I feel the world tilts. I seem to just levitate off the ground. Then I realize that Amicus has picked me up. The Praetors have much faster vehicles. We can get one from them.
Tibor?
I hear his voice, but for some reason I can't respond. It's like a dream.
Well, there's no time. I'm running back.
Amicus! I feel my body bouncing up and down, thrown left and right. It's like I'm in some kind of demented thrill ride. I reach out into the darkness to stop it somehow, but all I feel is something furry and warm. Everything hurts and itches at the same time. What is this?
Tibor? Here, stay with me, I'm here.
Who? I force my eyes to open even though they burn so much. I stare up at the gnarled things above me, and I wonder what they are. All that comes to mind, the bony, skinless hands reaching up to the sky.
Can you hear me?
There's a breathless, wheezing voice above me as the horrible bouncing ride continues. I just want to sleep. There's another sound, an odd droning one, and the earthquake finally stops. Amicus, get in, you fool!
The Pharaoh, he's having seizures. There's pustules all over his body.
The voice above me sobs and gasps. I want to reach up and put a hand over its mouth so it's quiet so that I can sleep. Calm yourself. Virginia's having a physician flown into the palace. You need to... Everything mercifully goes quiet again. I float through a void of quiet, soft black clouds that tickle and nip at my skin. It itches and I want to itch, but something seems to be holding me down. I open my eyes slowly, staring up at the ceiling. I'm starting to get really annoyed that I can't just fall asleep. I have so much to do tomorrow. We go on the trip to Naples, I think, to try the authentic Italian pizza. I'm going to have a terrible time if I don't get at least a little. I realise that I can't move. I see fear grips my chest, and at the same time I see something large scuttling up the wall. A giant spider skitters upwards, its movement off, like it's a puppet being pulled up by strings. It moves across the ceiling, even though it's the size of a giant crab. I can't move at all. Adastra and arachnids are disturbingly large. I grip my teeth as it comes to a stop above my head, then falls straight down onto my face, legs fanned out. Get off! I shove it at the things pressing at my face.
I told you to hold him down. Well, I'm trying. Tibor, listen to me, please. You're safe. We're helping you.
I focus on the monsters above me, their massive white teeth and red glowing eyes. Their horrible hands come down to press on me, and I feel the pricking pain all over my skin. I thrash around, but it's no use. They're too strong.
He's having another seizure.
I lean against the side of a building on the empty road. The night is peaceful and quiet, mostly quiet. I hear clopping sounds in the distance. Galloping sounds. I frown and lean forward a bit, looking up the dark road. I see a horse running toward me. Its eyes glow red and spit flies from its mouth. Afraid, I press myself closer to the building, but the horse ignores me. Instead, as it runs past me, I see that it's dragging something. A wolf's headless body. The arms spread out, the stump leaving a long red streak across the cobblestones. I open my mouth to scream.
We have nothing on record for his species.
Then profile him.
Is there a reason why we don't?
Just heal him. Please. It's just aviopox.
Well, clearly has a different effect on his species. His nervous system is already damaged beyond repair. You should consider... Things never seem to go as planned, do they? I'm sorry that you had to experience this. I did not foresee it. Do not worry. You are still on the correct course. You will be able to complete this task. I just need a little time.
And what a cliffhanger, Howley. Yeah, things are getting interesting here. So, if anyone cares, I suspect, and because I've done the voice that way, that's that voice that's been talking to us on and off. I'm fairly sure it's the Romanus. I think we just made contact with the parent. And I think I know where things are going to be going from here as far as one aspect goes, which I've shared with someone. But I'm not going to say that yet. Just, I think something might solve our issue about whether we keep Amicus and Tibor together or he wants to go home. Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for the next update now. This is a really interesting. Great job, Howley, again. And a nice job from Haps and Blackson as well on those CGs. And not just the sprites we've seen here, but also those differences in the background. So if you watched during the restaurant scene there, I didn't notice it the first time because I was paying so much attention to the text and what Amicus was talking about. But yeah, just watch those little changes, nice subtle ones in the background there, and the changing. Very, very nicely done. But yeah, we have to wait now. I'm pretty sure Tibor's going to be okay. Because, I mean, Howley is capable of switching narrators midstream. He's good enough writer for that. But, you know, that's Amicus's love interest. We can't do that to Amicus. No one wants to hurt Amicus, apart from Cato, obviously. Possibly Cassius. Anyway, we're off track. That's it. And before I finish off, just a couple of things. I just want to give a quick shout out to my friend Dirk the Red Panda. If you haven't seen his stuff on YouTube, you should watch it. He does live streams and they're also recorded on here. He's actually one of my recommended channels. If you look at my little recommendations on my channel there, he has just reached the 1,000 subscribers, which is great going. It's quite a landmark on YouTube. He can be monetized if he wants that kind of thing. 1,000 people want to do that. So well done, Dirk. And if you haven't subscribed, go and do it. Just watch what he does. And also, if you enjoy this kind of thing, if you've thought, oh, I'd like to do that, there is a Discord server for that. VN Readings. It's something a Hardy set up. I'm on there, and we've been doing the Echo Minus, a parody of Echo there, which Dirk's been hosting. That's our group on there. We've also been non-recording stuff for Echo Flynn's route. So if you're interested in being a part of a group doing this kind of thing, just different voices for each character, the VN, go and look up VN Readings on Discord and look up myself. I'm North Grizz on Discord, and I can let you know about that if you want. And you can become involved with that. I don't get involved in everything because I have enough to do with talking. But yeah, if you're interested in reading VNs, check that out. And I've talked about this way more than I normally do. So again, great work from Howley, Haps Blackson,
Can't wait for the next part, Adastra 8. I should really say that in Latin, but I have no idea how to count in Latin. Adastra 8. That will do. Mix my languages up. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm waffling again. Have a good day, night, whatever it is for you guys. Until next time, which will be password. Bye for now.